Hey there, Gamer Dad here. I mostly make gaming content, life advice, those kind of things. But sometimes I do other stuff. There's just a lot of stuff going on right now. So I'm also a college professor. I teach IT and computer systems. What you probably don't know is my original degree was in political science, specifically political theory and philosophy. And my students ask me a lot of questions, and then they ask me this one, so I'm going to answer it. And I'm going to answer it for you. Let's talk about political systems, okay? Right, left, and stuff like that. Because what I've noticed over the last, a couple of decades is the whole language about that has been weaponized and doesn't actually express the reality. So let's talk about a political system here. So what you have is, let's talk about the center. By the way, every poll in North America and a lot of the places, if you do polls about where do you fall, most people are centrists. What are centrists? I want to go to work. I want to take care of my family, do my thing, be left alone, and make sure everything's running okay. That's pretty much the drill. So let's talk about the political system, and I'll be referring to Canadian and the Americans. So you have the center, and then from the left, in Canada, this would be like the Liberals, and over here would be the Conservatives. But you'll notice the Democrats and Republicans, there's a center part, right? So in Canada, this would be Liberals and Democrats, and it's kind of funny. In Canada, really you used to have three versions of the Liberals, right? You'd have like centrist Liberals, which were liberals, left of center, which was the NDP, and right of center, which were the Conservatives. I used to be what was called a blue liberal because I believed in liberals and social safety nets and all that stuff, but I also like the army and some strong controls and, dealing with criminals. So, and on the other side, if you were a sort of a left-leaning conservative, you would be called a red Tory because you believed in big business and all that stuff, but also the social safety net. Fun fact, in Canada, a lot of the social safety nets and healthcare and all this other stuff was put in place when conservatives were in power. So there was a big overlap, and there's a lot of conversations, and that's kind of the way it used to be. Things have gotten a little crazy and have pushed out. So, but I find it funny when people call you left wing because center is kind of the middle, a little left, that's liberal. That's not really hardcore left wing. And then they'll say, oh, you're far left. Well, far left is way over here. And that's where you sort of hit hardcore socialism. There are things like, in Europe, they use a lot of democratic socialism. So it's kind of over here, but allows for this kind of stuff. If you push far enough left, you go from socialism, hardcore socialism, and then to communism, which is like, we all know how that works out. And then you also have the extreme far left. I'm going to say another thing where, everybody wants you to live in your mom's backyard and grow your own flowers and eat your toenails, right? And then if you go the other way, you're going to get conservatives, and then you're going to get alt-right conservatives, and then you're going to get fascism, which is Deutschland über alles, and that's the extreme control by the state. Funny thing is dictatorship is extreme control by the state, and communism is extreme control by the state. Not supposed to be that way, but that's the way it works out. So you have to be clear about what people are talking about. And this is especially for my younger viewers because they just get bombarded with all this stuff. And you also realize that there has been a unified conversation in media, which has been all centralized to push these labels. Okay? But basically you have the center where most people live. And then you can have right of center and left of center. The farther you get left, then over here somewhere there's socialism, which is why you get like democratic socialism over in Europe and stuff like that, which seems pretty effective. Over here you can have social safety net and still have big business and all that stuff. But as soon as you get over here, things get weird. As soon as you get over here, things get weird. But people label people the far or the far. You know what I mean? You just say, hey, I think people should be nice to each other. Commie! And you think business should be doing what it wants to do. Yeah, you tech bro psycho! There's no discourse anymore, which is what we used to have. It's just my opinion, by the way. Everybody's just a person. So this is actually the political system. And the interesting thing is if you go too far right, it just goes, there's another one that's like a circle that shows this. But again, I'm going to reiterate, most people are right here. Now, the fun fact, and I'm just going to relate this to the conversations you see in the internet, don't forget we live in a clickbait, views-based society. A bunch of people sitting around agreeing at a table doesn't make for engaging news, right? So what happens is they bring on crazies from the left, they'll bring on crazies from the right and let them argue, and then we start to see the world through that lens. But it's the middle. We are the middle, and the middle is also stable, and you get change over time, and everybody kind of succeeds. rich people still make way too much money and we don't make enough, but that's the way it is. So be clear about when people are talking about far left and far right. They're just labeling everything one way or the other. However, stuff you're seeing now is over here, which is kind of like a tech bro dictatorship, right? A corporatocracy, which is not good. Very not good. So I just had a second thought. This is just a side note. I'm just watching videos of all the tech bros, and they just say crazy stuff. And I realized that they're keyboard warriors who have never actually had to be people with way too much money. So let's just recap. Center is center. Little say you can get center left, which is liberal. You go a little further, you sort of get socialism. You go too far, and you get communism. And yeah, right. We can talk about how there's never really ever been a communism. To the right, you get conservatism, big business, and stability, and usually stuff about, well, we don't want anything to change. Go a little far, you get alt-right, which is kind of starting to get pretty extreme, doesn't like any of this stuff. And you go too far right, you get some form of dictatorship. And historically, this area over here and this area over here causes lots of problems. We want to hang around here where we talk, we work things out, and we move forward together. I hope that makes sense. And I'm sorry, I just can't sit around and watch everything's going on without saying something. So I'm going to be trying to give you information, and then you can do what you want with it. The bots are going to call me all left. You watch my comments. It's going to be great. I hope this helped. See ya.